Have you ever wondered what the souls of the rich and powerful say when they reach the other side? When the noise of applause fades, when titles no longer matter, and the weight of wealth cannot buy another moment of breath, what remains? According to the readings of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, the greatest regret of those who once held the world in their hands is not what they lacked, but what they ignored. Cayce said that when souls awaken in the spirit realm, they see with piercing clarity that everything they clung to, possessions, recognition, control, was like holding on to smoke. The real treasures, the ones that endure, were often the ones they left untouched: compassion, humility, the quiet joy of helping another soul find its way home. There is a strange silence in that realization. Many of these souls, Cayce described, awaken surrounded not by the echoes of their achievements, but by the emptiness of their intentions. They remember the faces of those they overlooked, the moments when kindness was possible but postponed, the times when they could have healed, but chose to win instead. The pain they feel is not punishment, it is remembrance. A soul cannot hide from its own truth. When the body is gone, every motive stands naked before the light of consciousness. What once seemed clever or successful is revealed for what it truly was: an opportunity to love missed. Cayce often said that the spiritual world is not a place of judgment, but of reflection. Imagine standing before a mirror that doesn't show your face but your essence, every thought, every emotion, every act of love or selfishness. The wealthy and powerful, those who had everything at their fingertips, see in that mirror how little they truly gave of themselves. They realize that abundance was never meant to be accumulated, but circulated. Wealth, influence, knowledge, all were tools entrusted to them to lift others, to build bridges between hearts. But when those tools are used only to build walls, the soul awakens to the coldness of its own isolation. And yet this is not a tale of condemnation, it is one of grace, because even in regret the spirit is learning. Cayce explained that the purpose of life is not perfection, but growth, and growth often begins with the pain of recognition. The souls of the powerful, in their moments of awakening, often become the greatest helpers in the realms beyond. Once they understand what they failed to give, they dedicate themselves to guiding others toward the love they missed. They become quiet lights for those still walking the path of ambition, whispering through intuition, "Use what you have to bless, not to possess." It makes you wonder, how many of us are living the same illusion, believing that achievement equals fulfillment? How many of us are trading moments of connection for the comfort of control? Cayce's message was simple, yet profound. The currency of the soul is not gold, but goodness. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, carries a weight in the spirit world that no fortune can equal. And when we finally cross that threshold between the seen and unseen, it is those invisible investments that greet us like old friends, shining with recognition. The greatest regret, Cayce said, is realizing too late that love was the only thing we were meant to multiply. Not our possessions, not our status, but the warmth we give, the hope we inspire, the peace we leave behind. In the light of eternity, power without purpose fades like morning mist, while even the smallest act of sincere care glows like a sun that never sets. Those who once ruled empires often bow in humility before the souls who simply loved well. Because love, in its quiet, consistent, uncalculated form, is the true measure of greatness beyond this world. And maybe that is why Cayce's words still echo so deeply today. Because we know somewhere in our own hearts that what he described is not just about them, the rich, the powerful, the famous. It's about us, about the moments when we too forget the sacredness of the simple, when we rush past the opportunity to be kind, when we chase what will one day mean nothing, while neglecting what will mean everything. Perhaps the souls of the powerful are not warning us from afar, but from within. Perhaps their regret is meant to become our awakening. If we look deeply, we begin to see that power itself is not the problem. It is the consciousness behind it. Edgar Cayce never condemned wealth or leadership. He reminded us that these are divine tests, opportunities wrapped in temptation. To hold influence is to hold energy, and energy must flow. When it stagnates, When it is hoarded or used only to serve the self, it begins to decay. Cayce compared this to a river that stops moving. The water turns dark, the life within it suffocates. But when the current flows freely, nourishing everything along its path, it becomes a blessing. The same applies to every resource we hold, our money, our talents, our voice. The moment we release them with love, they regain their sacred nature. Many of Cayce's readings described souls who once believed they were in control of their destiny. They shaped empires, commanded nations, built monuments to their names, and yet when the veil lifted, they discovered that all those structures were made of dust. The only architecture that remained was invisible, the architecture of the heart. Each act of compassion, each sincere prayer, each moment of forgiveness, these were the true pillars of eternity. What you build within yourself, Cayce said, is the only thing you take with you. The irony is that the very souls who sought immortality through their legacy often forgot that eternity was never outside of them, but within. There's a haunting beauty in this realization. Imagine a soul who once sat upon a throne, now sitting quietly in the light of the higher realms, reviewing their life like scenes projected on a vast screen. They see the faces of those they affected, some smiling with gratitude, others turned away in sorrow. They feel not as punishment, but as empathy, everything they made others feel. In that moment, they understand the delicate law of the universe. Energy returns to its source. Every action, every intention eventually circles back. What we give out, we meet again, not as vengeance, but as perfect balance. That is why Cayce often said that the most powerful souls are not those who rule others, but those who rule themselves. True power, in the spiritual sense, is the mastery of one's own inner kingdom, the ability to act from love rather than fear, from generosity rather than pride. The tragedy is that in the physical world, the ego disguises itself as purpose. It tells us, "You are succeeding," when in truth, we are only accumulating. But the soul does not measure in numbers or possessions. It measures in resonance, in the vibration of the heart. The higher the frequency of love we live by, the lighter our spirit becomes. And yet, Cayce's message is not one of despair, but of redemption. He insisted that every soul, no matter how lost in material pursuit, can awaken in an instant of realization. That single moment of genuine remorse, of understanding what truly matters, becomes a spark that lights the path forward. The spiritual realms, he said, are filled with guides who once walked the very roads of greed and ambition. Their regret transformed into wisdom, their pain became their purpose. They now reach out to us gently through intuition, through dreams, through the quiet feeling that whispers, "There's more to life than this." This is why wealth and power, though dangerous, can also be sacred when used with awareness. To be entrusted with abundance is to be given a chance to multiply goodness on a grander scale. The problem is not in having much, it is in forgetting why we have it. Cayce urged those who sought guidance on prosperity to remember that giving is not loss, it is the rhythm of divine order. The universe itself breathes in and out, creation, expansion, return. When we mimic that rhythm, when we allow our blessings to circulate, we align with the heartbeat of the cosmos. So perhaps the question is not, how much do we have? But how much of what we have is serving love? Imagine if every act of power was infused with empathy, if every success carried a ripple of kindness, if every fortune was seen as a tool to heal rather than a trophy to display. The souls that Cayce spoke of, those who looked back with tears of understanding, teach us that this shift of perspective changes everything. Because the day we realize that the purpose of having is giving, that the purpose of leading is uplifting, the chains of regret begin to dissolve before they even form. And maybe, just maybe, that is how we begin to live in a way that no longer fears the moment when the applause ends. When Cayce spoke of the afterlife, he described it not as a place of reward or punishment, but as a vast classroom of consciousness. Every soul continues its education there, reviewing lessons learned and unlearned. For those who lived in abundance, the curriculum often begins with a humbling realization that wealth without wisdom creates an emptiness that no treasure can fill. The rich and powerful souls he described did not face condemnation. They faced clarity. They saw, sometimes with overwhelming tenderness, that the people they once thought beneath them were, in truth, their teachers. Every servant, every worker, every stranger they dismissed was an opportunity for the soul to recognize unity. And they had missed it. That awareness pierces deeper than any divine judgment could. In the spiritual realm, there is no currency, no hierarchy, no competition. The laws of energy erase all illusions of separation. There, a beggar who loved sincerely shines brighter than a king who ruled in fear, not because one was higher and the other lower, but because love vibrates at a frequency that nothing else can match. Cayce said that the soul's true wealth is measured by how much light it carries, and that light is generated by selfless service. "You will never lose anything you give with love," he told one seeker, "for love is the only thing that survives the crossing." How profound and how simple. We spend lifetimes chasing permanence, while the secret has always been in surrender. This teaching echoes the words of the Christ Spirit that Cayce so often referenced: "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, but treasures in heaven." Yet heaven, as Cayce explained, is not a distant place beyond the clouds. It is a state of being, a consciousness of unity, compassion, and truth. When we live in that vibration, even for a moment, we touch heaven now. The tragedy of the materially successful souls was not that they were wealthy, but that they forgot this state existed. They mistook acquisition for ascension, status for soul growth. And so their awakening comes like dawn through fog, slow, soft, but inevitable. The light returns, and they remember what they always knew, that love, not luxury, is the path home. It's moving to imagine these once mighty souls, politicians, magnates, celebrities, now walking quietly through realms of reflection, learning again how to feel, how to listen, how to love without agenda. Cayce described that in the higher dimensions, such souls often choose to serve in silence, helping others who are still lost in the illusions they once lived by. They become guides for the ambitious, guardians for the proud, whispering into the hearts of those on earth, "Be careful what you call success." Their power has been purified. Where once it controlled, now it heals. They have learned that the only lasting empire is the one built within, the empire of peace, of understanding, of compassion that asks for nothing in return. There is something deeply human about this redemption. It reminds us that every mistake is a teacher, and that even the greatest fall can become the seed of the greatest awakening. Cayce believed that no soul is beyond restoration because the divine essence within us, that spark of the Creator, cannot be destroyed. It can only be veiled. And when that veil lifts, often through pain or regret, the light shines stronger than before. So the regrets of powerful souls are not the end of their story, but the beginning of a higher purpose. They are the moment the sword is laid down and the hand is extended instead. They are proof that growth is eternal and grace is infinite. But perhaps the real question is not about them. It's about us. Are we, in our own small ways, walking the same road toward the same awakening? We may not have crowns or fortunes, but we all hold power. The power of attention, of choice, of influence over those around us. How do we use it? Do we use our words to uplift or to dominate? Our time to serve or to accumulate? Cayce's teachings invite us to pause and ask, if my soul were to awaken tonight, what would I see reflected back? It's not a question meant to shame, but to free us from illusions before they harden into regret. Because ultimately the path of the soul, whether rich or poor, known or unknown, leads to the same truth, that everything we seek to own will one day dissolve, but everything we give in love will live forever. The power that survives is the power to forgive. The wealth that endures is the wealth of the heart, and the greatest legacy any of us can leave is not a name carved in stone, but a light carried forward in another soul. Maybe that's why Cayce's message still feels like a whisper from eternity. Remember who you are. Remember what you came here to give. And as we remember, something within us begins to soften, as if the regrets of other souls are gently being turned into our own awakening. And so as the journey of the soul unfolds beyond the veil, what remains of the rich and powerful is not the echo of their names, but the vibration of their hearts. Edgar Cayce taught that consciousness never ends, it expands. Each lifetime is a single chapter in an infinite book, and even those who once misused power are simply characters in a story that the divine keeps rewriting toward love. In the end, the soul does not ask, "How much did I own?" but rather, "How much did I awaken?" The real wealth of existence is awareness, the kind that sees through illusion and recognizes the sacred in every being. The powerful souls who once ruled with pride now teach us with humility that awakening is the only true victory. If we listen closely, we can almost hear them speaking across the invisible distance, their voices softened by wisdom. Do not waste your time chasing what will die with you. Use your strength to build what will outlive you: kindness, understanding, peace. Cayce believed that Earth itself is a great school for learning cooperation. Every soul is both student and teacher. The wealthy and the poor, the strong and the weak, each reflect an aspect of the divine seeking balance. When one learns to give, the other learns to receive, and in that exchange, both evolve. But when the flow stops, when greed, fear, or pride interrupt the circulation of love, the lesson must repeat, lifetime after lifetime, until harmony is restored. That is why Cayce's vision of karma was never about punishment but restoration. Karma is love correcting itself. It is the universe whispering, "Try again, but this time, remember." The souls who once built empires may return as those who serve quietly, learning empathy through simplicity, and those who once suffered under the weight of others' ambition may return as guides, offering compassion born of experience. Every reversal, every contrast, is part of the great balancing act of creation. Nothing is wasted. Even regret becomes holy when it turns the heart toward love. Imagine for a moment what it means to live now with that understanding, to carry within us the wisdom that many only discover after death. It means living as if the spirit world is not a distant destination, but the deeper layer of this very moment. It means measuring success not by what we gain, but by what we give. To live spiritually aware is to walk through the world knowing that everything we touch, every choice we make, leaves an imprint on eternity. The words we speak echo beyond this life. The kindness we offer becomes light in another dimension. The forgiveness we grant liberates not only others, but ourselves. Cayce said that the most sacred prayer is not spoken aloud, but lived. When our actions become an expression of gratitude, when our work becomes an offering of service, we begin to transform even ordinary life into sacred ground. The soul of the powerful, once blind to this truth, learns it through loss. But we, still alive, still capable of choosing differently, have the privilege to learn it through awareness. We don't have to wait for the moment of crossing to see what truly matters. We can awaken now. And perhaps that is the hidden mercy in hearing these stories of regret. They are not meant to sadden us, but to remind us of what we can still change. So maybe the real question isn't what do I have, but what am I giving? Not how long will I be remembered, but how deeply am I loving? Cayce's message turns the concept of success upside down, revealing that the greatest accomplishment of any life is to leave the world lighter than we found it. When we touch another soul with sincerity, we are adding light to the eternal network of being. When we lift even one person from despair, the universe expands in gratitude. That is the alchemy of love. It multiplies by giving, and it heals by being shared. And when our own time comes to cross that final threshold, may we do so with peace rather than regret. May we look back and see not the towers we built, but the hearts we touched. May we feel the warmth of every small kindness we gave, glowing like lanterns lighting our way home. Because in the end, as Cayce and so many awakened souls have taught, love is the only currency that passes between worlds. It is the language of the soul, the legacy of eternity, the bridge between power and purpose. So let us begin now, to live the kind of life that needs no apology in the afterlife, to build not empires but sanctuaries of compassion, to become each in our own way a quiet light in the fog for others still searching the shore.